What's going on, guys? Gamer Dude back once again and bringing you some more informative gaming news. But before we begin, y'all know the routine, or at least I hope you do by now. If you are new to the channel, please make sure you smash that like button and drop me a subscribe because it would just be your good deed of the day. Same applies if you are a returning viewer. So, all eyes are now on WB Games Montreal. And I have to say, where can they go from here? And I'm hoping the answer is forward. Yes, the developer behind Batman Arkham Origins and Gotham Knights appear to be working on two new DC-based titles. So in this video, I'm going to be breaking down everything I've found regarding this and throwing in a few discussions of my own. So let's get right into it. WB Games Montreal sounds like they're experiencing a brain drain, despite the fact they're supposedly working on two new DC Comics tie-in games. Of course, when Batman Arkham Origins came out back in 2013, it seemed as if the new studio at the time, WB Games Montreal, did indeed have a bright future ahead of them. Until they failed to release any new games up until the point of Gotham Knights, which sadly wasn't that well received. I mean, then again, neither was Arkham Origins. I mean, Arkham Origins, yeah, it was a good game, but nobody liked it. It wasn't, it wasn't as good as the Rocksteady Arkham games. And I think fans picked up on this, they were like, meh. It just didn't have the, although it wasn't the tone of the Rocksteady games, it just didn't have the Rocksteady vibe to it. And people hated on it for that. Not to mention it was full of bugs and glitches. But that's a rant for another day. But yeah, before that, there had been endless stories of cancelled DC Comics games, from multiple Superman titles to one starring Batman's secret love child, Damian Wayne. I mean, I think even I've covered that on this channel at some point. But none of these games came to fruition or ever saw the light of day. And it was clear there was a lot of publisher interference going on behind the scenes. But perhaps now we'll actually find out exactly what was happening, as the three biggest names at the studio have all left within the last few months, with the game director, creative director, and executive producer all exiting the studio, along with a number of less senior staff members. Now, many people may think, well, hang on a minute, that just means the company's going under or it's being sold off and bought out and, they're getting they're doing layoffs. No, that's not the case at all. They've just seemingly left. Unusual, perhaps, but given WB Montreal haven't actually been making any money over the last few years, and the last few games have been quite disastrous, it could just be that these senior staff members and lower tier staff members just want to move on to something different before WB Games Montreal does end up going out of business or does end up being bought up by another studio and they have to do these layoffs. Probably better to just look for another job in the meantime before, getting laid off and having to explain to another employer why you were laid off. That's just my theory anyway. But yeah, despite WB Montreal's inactivity over the last decade, the studio is still a big studio with around 350 employees split between two different teams. To judge by recent job postings, the Gotham Knights team is now working on a new co-op multiplayer game. Yeah, I know, eyebrows raised. Yay, another multiplayer game. Yeah, but that's just the way gaming's going now, so you've got to deal with it, unfortunately. Anyway, and the other side of the team have been working on a single player title for the last 2 or 3 years. Now, the multiplayer game, yeah, as I said, it raises eyebrows, it raises questions like, what's the point in another multiplayer game when Gotham Knights didn't do that well? And yes, you can play Gotham Knights solo, but it's sort of designed for you to play it multiplayer, you know? And the fact that they are actually working on a single-player game leaves eyebrows lowering because, you know, people are thinking, well, is this finally going to be the Superman game we were promised? Or is it going to be the Damian Wayne game set in the Gotham Knights universe or the Arkham Origins universe? Because people are still in two minds whether or not Arkham Origins is actually connected to Rocksteady's Arkham trilogy. We don't know yet. I mean, it seems like it would be. I mean, correct me if I'm wrong in the comments below, but is it actually connected to those three games? Gotham Knights, of course, is a separate entity, but is Arkham Origins connected to the Arkham franchise? Because it seems like it's a separate game to me. I know it's got the same title, Arkham, but it does seem like a separate game. Anyway, both of these games are likely to be DC Comics properties, since really that's all the developer has actually worked on since its inception. But those plans were almost certainly thrown into turmoil when James Gunn took over as head of DC Studios. Now, all these licensings are getting thrown around. You know, CW TV shows got cancelled because of it. Batman's still not allowed to appear in any live-action television series because WB won't allow it. So you've got to think, well, if they were working on WB titles, now that James Gunn's in charge of DC Studios, will Warner Brothers actually allow it and say, yeah, sure, okay, but we want it based on the movies instead of its own thing? I don't know. It could be good, you know, because we haven't really seen any movie tie-in games for a number of years now, so maybe a movie tie-in game is just what the DC gaming world needs. Let me know your thoughts on that. But yeah, during a pitch to fans, Gunn stated that all forthcoming games would be part of the new movie continuity. He's creating, and while there already seems to be several exceptions to that rule in terms of the films, it's not doubted or led to a lot of retrofitting of ideas at WB Games and beyond. Now, none of the staff departures were advertised, but fans of Reddit have noticed their exit and appearance at various other studios, such as the nearby Ubisoft Montreal. However, until recently, Fleur Marty remained at WB Games and was executive producer on the announced but still yet unseen Wonder Woman game. Now, to be honest, that would have been quite interesting because, yeah, we've seen Batman games, we've seen Superman games, we've seen spin-off Batman games, but we've never seen anything else as a game in that world. Yeah, we had Injustice where you could play as them, but that's not what I'm talking about. We haven't had a single game with those heroes. Like, we haven't had a Green Arrow game, we haven't had a Blue Beetle game, we haven't had a Wonder Woman game. And that is something I think would play well with fans, especially with this whole turmoil in terms of like all the characters and where they're going in future. So I think it would bring life back to the DC universe. You know, try it again. You know, I've been saying this for the Marvel games as well. You know, we've had plenty of Spider-Man games. We've had plenty of Avengers games, but, you know, give us individual games. And that's what we are now getting. You know, we're getting a Black Panther game. We're getting a Captain America game. And it's not even a movie tie-in. It actually is its own thing. And I really do think that's what DC Games needs to bring itself back to life. But yeah, continuing on from that, other staff at WB Montreal seem to be working on other particular games as well, including Wonder Woman, but even though we've still not seen it, they are working on it. And even though it's been led by Shadow of Mordor developer Monolith Productions, although that's not unusual for games where, you know, a publisher owns multiple studios. But yeah, even so, none of this paints a pretty picture, and it's only a relief that there's so far no signs of the studio being shut down, as I said earlier, because, you know, you've got to be weary of all these layoffs and everything. You know, you don't know if a studio is getting shut down. You don't know if they're leaving because they want to do other things, or if the studio is being shut down, or if they're just being laid off. You see where I'm going. But yeah, considering how well regarded the Batman Arkham games were, Warner Brothers has, let's say, not made a very good impression of the DC Comics license since. With NetherRealm's 2 Injustice games being the only other major titles to have been released in the last decade. I mean, I played other DC titles on the PS2, but yes, since then, there hasn't really been that much in the way of DC titles. And it is a shame, you know, Marvel really did take the spotlight when it came to video games. I like both sides, you know. I like DC and I like Marvel, so I think both need the attention they deserve. You know, I think both need to be in the gaming spotlight as much as the other. Now, of course, Rocksteady's Suicide Squad game was supposed to have been out a while ago now, but currently it's now not due out until next February, following a disastrous gameplay reveal earlier this year. In other words, everybody hated it. You know, it was basically just a rehash of Gotham Knights, and everybody hated it. You know, it didn't, I don't know how to put this, you know. It's supposed to be set in the same universe as the Arkham franchise. And those games were just the pinnacle of their day. You know, they were the top of the gaming charts back when they first released. And Suicide Squad, it looked really janky, it looked really cartoony, it looked like a clone of Gotham Knights, just with the Suicide Squad. You know, everybody hated it. And the fact that you needed to be constantly connected to the internet to play really didn't sell it to people all that well. So yeah, I get the feeling that they just delayed it to make some minor tweaks on that. Because there's no point releasing a game or showcasing a game and then releasing it if everybody hates it, because it's just not gonna sell. It's just not gonna make the money, and then, you know, it's gonna put a stain on the games franchise, which in this case is a well-known and loved franchise, the Arkham series. And if they were to ruin it with the Suicide Squad game, I don't think it'd bode well for DC games going forward. But yeah, let me know what you guys think in the comments below. But that's just about all I could dig up on WB Games Montreal working on 2 new games. I know I haven't said what games they're actually working on, but that's real hush-hush stuff at the moment. You know, we don't actually know. But the news is there. You know, it's just there that they're working on something new, and something that will, thankfully or hopefully, be better than Gotham Knights and the showcased Suicide Squad game, which I'm sad to say is a stain on the Arkham series. But yes, so that's it for this video then. I want to thank you all for stopping by. I do appreciate it. Once again, you all know the routine, or at least I hope you do by now. If you aren't new to the channel, please make sure you smash that like button and drop me a subscribe, because it would just be your good deed of the day. Same applies if you are a returning viewer. Stay tuned as well, because we have plenty of content coming in the coming weeks. We've got updates for various games that I'm going to be showcasing. There's a couple of new games out that I want to play, and not to mention Spider-Man 2 is now only 2 months away. So yeah, there's definitely going to be a lot of gameplay from that. And I've got the collector's edition as well, so I'm going to be doing an unboxing video. So do stay tuned for all of that. So that being said then, this has been Gamer Dude. Happy gaming, and I will catch you all in the next one, guys.